450 members, well over 450 members at our branch, and we're still looking for new members. We have lots of membership application forms. And out of that many, we have well over 60 veterans from the Second World War and the Korean. That I can find out exactly how much. I know exactly how many members in another couple of weeks, because we go over, the membership chair and myself go over our list and see how many veterans we have, and we send them all a complimentary ticket to our members that have dinner. So, and it's for a small branch, that's quite a few veterans. Really, a lot of them have moved into the area, retired here, but there's well over 60 of them. So, and some of them are pretty active. So a lot of them are active around the branch. And I guess it's going to be a very interesting meeting, so this time I'd like to turn it back over to Karen on now, or turn it back over to Karen Gray. Thank you. Okay.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Karen Graham, and I am Youth Committee Chair for the Royal Canadian. Am I not loud enough?
No. I don't think it's on.
As I was saying, my official title in the Legion is the Youth Chairperson, and in the fall of the year we deliver information to 8 schools, local schools, for the poem, poster, and literary contest to grades from grades 2 to 8 are usually the ones that participate. Last year we had over 500 entries, and we displayed them around the building for the public and for Remembrance Day. The winners, the first prize winners in each category, they go on to the zone contest. And last year it was held in Norwood, so we were able to attend that and support them. And in the spring we have our public speaking contest. And the same idea, we distribute the rules and regulations, and last year we had around 30. That's an average participation, and it's really great to see and listen and hear the different categories that the students pick. And the younger ones even participated last year, and they were the cutest, I would say. This year I've been chair of the Memorial Room Committee, and along with my committee of Elmer Graham, Jim and Gail Warren, Jim Marsden and Gary Smith, we collected memorabilia and displayed it for our 80th birthday party, 80th birthday week. We had about 130 people here at the dedication on the 17th. And I will read later my dedications to my uncles, and then at the end of our meeting we can tour the room. Just a brief history. I think a lot of you likely already have the pull-out copy from the Lakefield Herald from a couple weeks ago, and in it there is everything you need to know and everything you don't need to know about the Legion. So tonight, I think most of the speakers are stealing their information from it. The original branch was built between the bridges, and I still remember that. But it must have been about 20 then, I don't know. Anyways, it was 1926.
You were 20 in 1926.
No. And many of you likely do remember it. 46, yeah. Oh, the charter was 26. Okay. And when it was originally, the charter was drawn in 26. They used the town hall, and a room was put aside there in memory of the veterans. And several committees were organized to plan and carry on branch activities, and that has never changed. And then as now, it's often necessary for a member to hold more than one position, as in many clubs. At the end of World War II, there was many veterans returning, of course, and several joined the Legion. And at that point, the room at the town hall was not large enough. So the village sold a lot to the Legion for $1. The first Legion was constructed on it in 1948, and that's when it started, the best little Legion by a damn sight. At that time, the branch's assets were about $40. Monthly meetings were held, and membership fundraising projects started. Improved finances and increasing needs brought about the decision to build a new hall. The old hall was sold to Bob Hudson for $100. A building committee was formed, and consisting of Bill Atkinson, Ralph Millage, Bob Morrison, Jack Moles, Rod Roddick, and Bill Wood. George Chappell and Bud Evan made up the Ways and Means Committee. 10 members each co-signed a note for $1,000 so that $10,000 could be borrowed from the Bank of Commerce for a 20-year term. And there were several volunteer affiliates performed work on the new building. The framework, exterior walls, roof, and floor constructed at the time still form part of the structure today. The new Legion was dedicated at 2 o'clock on Saturday, March the 10th, 1964. In the past 42 years, many improvements have been made. Full kitchen, refurbished washrooms, and with the help of a grant from the Trillium Foundation, access for the disabled, and this year the renovation of the library memorial room. We also had some new flooring put in, and the flooring was replaced and the stage was constructed behind me in what we call the Chapel Hall. And as Jim said, our membership stands at over 450. There was some messages from the president that Jim added to this printout, and one of the items was the Township of Smith and Smore Lakefield. So they have supported us on Legion Week. Not only is it the 80th birthday of this branch, it's the 80th birthday of the Royal Canadian Legion across Canada. So Smith Township proclaimed September 17th as Royal Bank Legion Week, or Royal Bank Legion Day, and September 17th to the 23rd as did I say Royal Bank?
Yes.
Oh, God. Sorry about that. I don't know where that came from.
Send them a bill.
No. And, sorry, the week of the 17th to the 23rd as Royal Canadian Legion Week.
There, they used to work there.
I know. One of that all members are proud of is that we will never forget our commitment to the veterans and their families, to the community, and to the youth. At this time, in one of the articles, it mentioned that the men have always said that the Ladies Auxiliary is the mainstay of the Legion. This time I'd like to call Louise Pratt up to give her thoughts on that.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm about the same as Karen. Most of what I have is what was in the paper. And most of our Ladies Auxiliary history is written in the front of our cookbook, which I think we still have a few copies. It was printed quite a few years ago. Our charters are up on the wall. This is the original of the Legion, and the Ladies Auxiliary is down up on the wall above the side door there of the kitchen. And it was the British Empire Service League at that time in 1926, November 1926. And all the names of the charter members were on here: Walter Chappell, Robert Webster, Joseph LeMay, Shewan, Travers Shewan. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Reginald Murdoch. Boy, you recognize a lot of these names. Charles Stenner, Roy Robinson, W.B. Marling, Arthur Barker, Ernest Robert Shaw, Charles, I don't know that one, Alan Clark, Fred Moon, Cephas LeMay, George Renwick. I can't read the ladies, but Mrs. Leonard, Mrs. W.W. Leonard was one of our first president. I have a list of the presidents. Interesting, the names. I remember a lot of them. 1927, I guess that's when they got started. There's Laura Leonard and Grace Stewart, Lula Robinson, Elizabeth Chappell. This hall is named after her and her husband. Florence Stenner. That must have been George's mother, was it? Does anybody know?
Yeah, one of Charlie Stenner's wife.
Yeah. Eva Adamson, Celia Charlton, Grace Helpin, Maud Clark, Mabel Calvary, remember Mabel, Zeta Stenner, Mabel Dumford, Dorothy Blewett, Mark, 1952-54, Mabel Calvary, and then 58-59, Mabel Dunford.
Same person.
Same person, yeah. Dorothy Blewett, Madeline Mose, Alberta Pogue, Evelyn Farquhar, Jean Northey, Mary Rishu, Helen Northey, Grace Hill, Beatrice Junkin, B. Galvin, no, I'm thinking of B. Junkin, Marie Galvin, Marge Payton, Teresa Flagler, Vivian Sheets, Hazel Hart, Ruth Caldwell, and Vivian again. The ladies, of course, have always been here to help the men. We have done dinners, and we've done a fashion show for a number of years to raise money any way that we can. Our big money maker, of course, is our bingo, held every Tuesday night at 7:30, if you're interested. We support the men in any way that we can, in the parades, with our color parties. Quickly go through some of these notes here that I got. We donate money to any of the organizations in the community. The Community Care in Lakefield, Buckhorn, and Chemong. We donate to the Heart and Stroke Fund, the Cancer Fund, 5 Children's Hospital, United Way. We give 3 school bursaries every year, $200 a piece. We only used to give 2, but then when they cut off grade. Now, how did that happen, Jim? Why did we start going to 3?
Well, just the 1 year, we had to give 6 and then 5.
Yeah, okay, that's it. A hospital fund, our Legion Bursary and Charitable Foundation Fund that we are pretty well obligated to donate to. It helps with bursaries for Legion children, and the Charitable Foundation Fund, the Veterans Wish List at Sunnybrook Hospital. We buy them televisions, microwaves, anything that they would like, and Cops for Cancer and our own Legion, of course, which we try to help as much as we can. The new gaming laws are making it a bit difficult for us to, because any money that we raise is supposed to be handed to charitable foundations, and so we have a bit of a problem finagling how we're going to get the money to our own Legion, and we're here to help them. So our membership now is 71, I think, and we're going to initiate a new member in our next meeting, and we're always looking for new members. Is there any questions? Please, Denise, yes.
Oh, Louise, I belong to the City County Disaster Fund and you've donated to it.
Yeah. Pretty well.
Which is greatly appreciated.
Thank you. Pretty well anybody that requests it. If it's in the community, we try and support any way we can. Like the band at the high school, we always give money because they support us on the 11th of November. They always come out, rain or shine, and give us music for our remembrance service.
Well, I know Mona used to come and make requests, and I didn't know if it would be necessary for someone to come and ask again, but,
Just send a letter
okay.
if any money is needed. And if we, we like to stay right in our own community, the same as
Yeah.
the Legion does. Keep it in Lakefield, Peterborough County. We play sports. We play darts and cards and bowling, and we go out in our zone and then in our district. And we had ladies go to the provincials in Euchre and Cribbage. They went to London for one and South Porcupine for the other, and they come in the top 6, I think, somewhere in there. They didn't win. They have won it though, and we all enjoy that. I enjoy getting together with all the ladies. I guess that's about all I think of, unless anybody's got any questions.
As Louise mentioned, there are numerous ways that we raise money for the community. A couple of them in the branch is the Poppy Fund and the Nevada Fund as well. They're just two of the ways that we raise money to help the community and the youth. I would like to call upon John Bannon. John joined the Legion in 1952 before moving to Lakefield Branch. John and a fellow veteran, Mel Swan, were instrumental in having the Buckhorn Moore Memorial dedicated. And he's here now to share some thoughts on that as well as the Poppy Fund. Thanks, John.
Thanks, Karen. You can have your pen back before
Thank you.
before it goes missing. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As Karen said, my name's John Bannon. I live in Buckhorn, and she mentioned Buckhorn. And Mr. Mel Swan. Mel is in intensive care at the time, not too well. But way back in 1979, 80, in that area, Mel and I got together and we agreed that the cenotaph that was in Buckhorn was in not an ideal spot. It was out in front of a flea market. And we just built a new community center, and we decided, with the hope of all the people in the area, that it should be moved to the community center. So we came to the Legion and talked it over. They were in full support, but as the other speakers have said, you don't give money away to anything unless it's authorized by provincial command or whatever. And especially to cenotaphs. They're the total responsibility of the municipality. And of course, the municipality in Buckhorn was Harvey Township, small community, and we got some support from them. And we got support from a businessman up there that arranged to have it moved. And then, of course, some of the veterans, Mel and I, got the thing set up and then did the landscaping ourselves. So now we have a memorial. Our Reverend Porter was the Legion minister at the time, chaplain, and we had a big parade. The band got together. There was a band at that time with the Legion, and although the music wasn't the best, it was a noise. We marched down the road in Harvey Township and up to the cenotaph, and Reverend Porter dedicated. We're all very proud of that. And it's too bad that Mel isn't here. He could tell you a little more about that. But anyways, ever since then, we have a Remembrance Day ceremony every Sunday, the first Sunday before, the last Sunday before the Remembrance Day. So this year it'll be the 5th of November. And I guess there isn't too much more I can say about that. The Legion members, all the Legion members come up after their church parade, and our ladies, although they're not auxiliary members of the Legion, but the ladies of the community center, and they put on a luncheon, and everybody says it's the best soup in the world. So they have soup and sandwich, which is very good. That's about enough on that. I've been the Poppy chairman for the last 5 years, maybe 6, I don't quite remember. But I had to give it up last year. I had a pretty serious brain operation, and I couldn't do it. And now Jim Warren is doing it, and I'm helping out. I'm still, he still gave me a job of getting the wreaths laid out and phoning the people to get wreaths. Karen has asked me to hit on a few community events. I guess Cubs and Scouts we support, and a nature trail. We have a bursary for students. I think Karen talked about that, or Louise did. And 24th of May Sports Day. And I think there's a lot of little things that happen that the Legion is involved in. At least at a meeting we get lots of letters asking for help with this and help with that. And we do the best we can. The Poppy Fund is restricted, and if you want to go beyond helping veterans that are in need, you pretty well have to get permission from the provincial command. And recent years, that's been pretty easy. They've been pretty loose. When I first came in here, the Poppy Fund was bringing in about $6,000 a year. And I worked on until we got up to 11,000 the last year I was working. And then last year, because of, I think it was because it was Veterans Year, we ended up with $14,000, which is pretty big money for a small branch just coming around Lakefield. And we do Bridge North and of course Buckhorn and all around the area, but for a small branch I think we do pretty well. I don't think there's much more that I could say that hasn't already been said. But I'm willing to take some questions if anyone wishes to ask.
Am I correct in thinking that you invite the children here at the end of the Santa Claus parade?
Oh, yes, that's another thing, that's right. And another thing we do too is encourage the children to come to the Remembrance Day parades. And we, now for instance in Buckhorn, the school, the Buckhorn Public School, bought a wreath. And I had my granddaughter and her little playmate come and lay that wreath last year. So it's interesting, we keep the kids going. We used to go to school and talk to the kids every Remembrance Day, but different principals come in and go, and sometimes they really aren't interested too much. So we got away from that, but I'm sure it could be revived if we went to got a new principal, go to a new principal, see what happens. Yeah. Is there anything else? Thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks, John. Well, we also have an affiliation with Bridge North as well, and Memorial or Remembrance Day service is held there as well. Jim, is it on the Wednesday before Remembrance Day?
Wednesday this
And is it at 10 or 11 or?
year, 10:30.
10:30. So we have supported the Cenotaph area there as well with their financial needs. And one of our big fundraising drives has been the building fund. I've mentioned a few things that the money went towards, and this year we're looking at raising money for a new roof. Back in May we had raising the roof campaign at the IGA, and one of our members, Peter Southall, stayed on the roof for 2 nights. And unfortunately, it was rainy weather, so unfortunately for him, but it was well received, and the IGA has certainly supported us many times through the year. I'd now like to read my dedication to the memorial room. I don't want to leave anybody out here. As appointed chairperson of the Memorial Room Committee and proud daughter and niece, I am proud and humbled to honor the 7 Graham brothers who served in World War II. Sons of Isaiah Graham, who was born in Canada of Irish descent, and Karen or Clara Rasmussen of Denmark, and siblings to 3 other brothers and 2 sisters. The oldest of the 7, Norman Graham, now deceased, was a private in the Army. Norman, a shiner to many, was 29 years old when he joined the Army. His term was cut short due to sickness, and he did not experience any action overseas. Norman stayed in the Lakefield area, raising his family with his wife Vi and working for local businesses. Next is Theodore Graham, private Canadian Fusilier. Theodore, known locally as Red, joined later than his other brothers, serving with the London Fusiliers, and was one of the early Canadians serving in Kiska, Japan. The Kiska operation was in the northern part of Canada and Alaska, where the Americans and Canadians decided they were going to take back the Aleutian Islands from Japan. Upon embarking, they found the Japanese had already left and came close to encountering some friendly fire with the American troops. However, they did get to celebrate with their comrades on the many bottles of sake they found in the dugouts. Beverly Graham was a gunner with the Royal Canadian Artillery. He was assigned to duty in Italy. Bev Sweeney, as most knew him, also spent time in North Africa and at Aldershot, the training base. It was here that the fancy suit story continues, with Sweeney knowing he was leaving the country. Oh, see, Uncle Elmer, I've already gone the wrong way. Just forget about that part about Beverly. We'll go to Wesley now. I'm not having a good night tonight. Wesley was a bombardier with the Royal Canadian Army Corps. He served in Europe for the full term of the war, mainly as a bomber on Army tanks. He only met one brother, Elmer, during his tour, and that was on the ship going over. They said hello as one left the mess hall and the other was entering. It was a fancy suit from home of Wes's that provided some comic relief during the brothers' leave time. Wasn't a man in uniform more attractive to a woman back then? The next brother is Alan Graham. He was a corporal with the Canadian Forestry Corps. He served with the Canadian Forestry Corps and stationed in Scotland for 5 years. Their division could concentrate on providing lumber for construction of bridges and roads, etc. During the war, he was visited by Brother Elmer and was able to visit Brother Arnold's squadron a few times. It was during the first visit, Alan was amazed that Arnold actually had bed sheets. After the ride of his life in Arnold's Lancaster bomber, Alan was as white as those bed sheets and told Arnold he could keep his fancy sheets because he preferred to keep his feet firmly on the ground. Alan was one of the many Canadians who brought home a war bride, a bonny Scottish lass by the name of Margaret. Back to Beverly. So while he was in Aldershot at the training base, this is where the fancy suit story continued. Sweeney knew he was leaving the country and he sent it to Elmer. On one occasion while on leave, Beverly and a few guys from Lakefield met up with Brother Elmer and Bill Wood in a small bar in Aldermont. Lo and behold, Elmer was trying to auction off the suit for 2 bottles of wine. The story goes that Elmer handed over the suit to Beverly, who ended up giving it up for 1 bottle of wine. This certainly confirms Beverly was the prankster Arnold and Alan claimed he was, with each visit usually ending up in trouble. The next brother is Elmer Graham, who's a private in the Royal Canadian Army. Sailed on the Queen Mary along with 22,000 other soldiers under escort at first for a little more than a day. Disembarked in Scotland, taking the train to England, and sailing for Sicily in late September on the SS Argentina, spending most of the winter in Messina. At that time, his company was with the Picton Highlanders, who had been in England almost 2 years and had seen very little fruit. The next morning at daybreak, an Italian man showed up on his bike with a bushel of oranges. When asked how much the oranges were, he put up both hands, so the troops ended up giving him 10 cigarettes for 1 orange. Later finding out it was supposed to be 10 oranges for 1 cigarette. Elmer later crossed Italy to the west side and sailed to Marseille, France. His convoy was sent to Belgium and billeted at different homes before moving into Holland in April. As the war was getting close to being over, they were sent to Garland Airport for 2 weeks before peace was declared. And he arrived home in Lakefield July 12, 1945. Arnold Graham was a flight sergeant gunner for the Royal Canadian Air Force. The youngest of the family, Arnold joined underage, enlisting in Toronto, training there and in Lachine, Saint-Hubert, Trois-Rivières, and Mont-Joli, Quebec. He was sent overseas May 1944 on a ship of 500 men sick with dysentery. Arnold arrived in Scotland and was then stationed in Bournemouth, England. There for 2 days he bumped into Lakefield's own Bob McCracken. As a gunner with the bombing crew, Arnold's favorite plane became the Lancaster, on which most missions meeting the enemy, became the Lancaster, with most missions were flown at night. Arnold flew 18 missions meeting the enemy on a few occasions with red flare shot to indicate attack. After the war, Bob McCracken told Arnold he was marching on the ground as a prisoner of war when Arnold's crew was being attacked. As the only surviving member of the 9 Lakefield boys to join the Air Force, Arnold returned home and worked for Prudential Insurance for many years. On a personal note, Arnold's daughter Sally and I shared a very moving moment on our first trip to Denmark as we climbed the dunes of the beach near Ringkøbing and looked down at the bunkers built by the Germans. The massive concrete structures took our breath away, and we were in awe. Sally of her father's bravery and courage, and me of my uncle and his brothers, including my dad, who took their life in their hands, as did many brave Canadians, to ensure our freedom today. These are just a few of the many memories of one local family, and I'm sure there are hundreds of stories left to be told. Please encourage our veterans to share as much as they can in order that we may pass them on to future generations. We not only salute the Graham brothers today, but the area men and women who served in the First and Second World Wars, along with the many who have served since in battles overseas, and those who continue to support other nations in the quest for world peace. Branch 77 Lakefield is proud to announce the renaming of the newly renovated memorial room as the Graham Room in honor of the 7 brothers who served and returned home safely. So I guess at this time, we'd like to invite you to tour that room, and if you have any questions, Uncle Elmer will answer them. Yeah. We have coffee at the back, and I'll just let you know if you decide to do a history on the Royal Bank, I can help you out there too.
I would like to thank Karen very much for her memories, her research, obviously, and also would like to thank the branch very much for inviting us here, and would ask Jim Marsden to accept a little something for that roof. And I believe I see at the back one of Sheila Garrett's memory boards, pictures, I think probably. Tell me what they are, Sheila? Legion pictures at the back. Thank you, sir.
Good, thank you very much. Thank you.